Well, hockey season, I think, is sort of officially started today with training camp, guys on the ice opening up. Joined tonight by Heavy Hockey's guru writer, Mr. Ryan Lotsberg, and Bob the goalie. Chad is busy rescuing some apartment building from a flood. Didn't know it was raining in Edmonton, but maybe something else caused it. I'm not sure. But good evening, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks for doing this. Some things, I guess, going on. Matthias Ekholm is going to miss training camp with a flexor. A hip flexor. He's going to keep him. Yeah, he's going to keep him out of camp. Any concerns with either of you two on that front?
None for me over here. I mean, Ekholm's been around the game for a long time. I don't think he's going to be too hard done by missing whether it's a day or a week of camp here while he nurses this injury. I believe he also said that if it was the regular season, he'd just push through it. So I don't think it's that significant of an injury. So it's all good by me. Let the camp invites duke it out for the first week of camp and let him settle in week 2.
Yeah, Nurse and Bouchard, I think were pairings today on D, and maybe that's a sign of things to come too. A little interesting kind of, to see that. Also, I guess yesterday, Charlie Huddy and Doug Waite are the 23-24 inductees for the Oilers Hall of Fame. Got a little graphic here that'll cover us up for a second.
Oh, nice.
Fancy.
I didn't make it. I don't know who made it, but I found it, and I thought it was pretty well done. It's kind of a neat look. Charlie Huddy for me was that almost like Matthias Ekholm without kind of the same sort of mean streak, but to Paul Coffey, as I guess Ekholm is to Bouchard a little bit. He allowed Paul to kind of go about things his way, and much like Matthias does, I guess, for Bouch this year. And what can you say about Doug Waite? I mean, that guy carried a team pretty much on his back, especially after Bill Guerin was dealt away. Doug Waite, for me, it has to be on my top 5 all-time Oilers power play guys on the half wall. That guy was a machine. I've got nothing but love for Dougie Waite, and had a bit of a gritty side to him too. Could drop the gloves, could take a shit ton of penalties. I think one time in San Jose. Do you guys have any fond Dougie or Charlie memories? Start with you, Bobby, and then go to Lottie.
Well, I'm old enough to remember Charlie Huddy quite clearly playing, and he was definitely always one of those guys that was dependable back there. He's the type of player that just kept the game simple, and actually, the more he got confident in his role, he actually produced some pretty good points too yet in his career. But he was definitely more known for his defensive side, and just a guy you didn't really notice, but that was almost a good thing because he didn't make any like spectacular plays, but he didn't make any mistakes, like big mistakes that would stand out. I kind of like the way the Oilers are doing this. They're when they're doing this their little wall of fame here is it seems like they're taking a guy from the dynasty years and also a guy from the modern years, right? And getting one of each. So we had Foglen, who was part of the dynasty's early part of the dynasty, and now Huddy, and of course Ryan Smith and Doug Waite. I kind of like that dynamic, so that's been cool to see.
Yeah, definitely. That's been cool to see too. I mean, Huddy was a little bit before my time, so I don't have a lot of memories of Huddy, but Dougie Waite.
I'm the geezer in the group. What are you gonna
do? Yeah, I'm the young rookie in the group here. No, Dougie was big. He was the star of the team when I was a kid, and like I wasn't a big Oilers fan when I was a kid. I was into the Avalanche, but I obviously watched the Oilers a lot because they're the local team. And my sister, actually, she's the furthest thing from a hockey fan, but Dougie Waite was one of the players that she actually really liked. And I remember like us getting to meet Dougie at the Carnival of Champions. And I know that was a big thing for my sister. She really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I missed that. I got to score a goal on Bill Ranford as he gently moved out of the way in the old Carnival Champions. And then I think Gizmo was on the dunk tank, and I got to dunk Giz. So that was the highlight of the Carnival of Champions for me way back when.
I actually ran to I was in Edmonton just on a weekend trip, and I was going to go watch an Oilers game. I forget who they were playing. But we went to this pasta place in some kind of almost like a back alley kind of pasta place. We were told that they had just great pasta there. So two buddies of mine and myself, we went to go check it out. And in there were Doug Waite and Todd Marchand having pre-carving it up before their game. And I really, I wanted to go, say hi and wish them luck. But I was also one of those guys like I'll let them eat first, and then I'll go wish them good luck. But both of them are really cool. And Waite was pretty appreciative just that we hadn't bothered him while they were eating. So.
I guess kind of on this same subject, if you're taking two guys next year, who do you got?
Man, that's a tough one. Are they going to keep doing these unsung heroes kind of thing? Because like Foglen and Huddy are both kind of unsung heroes. So do you see a guy like if you're staying on the defensive side of things, do you see a guy like Randy Gregg going up there, or if you're going to pick a forward, like who have we got out there that hasn't been touched it? I don't know. Did Craig Simpson do enough? That sort of stuff.
It's episode 18. We got to mention Craig Simpson.
There you go. So who knows? I mean, that's the great thing about a franchise like the Oilers. You have just an embarrassment of riches to choose from, and you probably can't make a wrong decision unless you pick Rafi Torres for some reason.
Poor Raf. I think Bill Ranford probably is kind of the tail end of the dynasty to kind of the miserable years guy for me. I mean, Hemsky's probably in the wheelhouse. I don't know if he would be next. Jason Smith. Yeah, I mean, what do you got, Lottie? You got a couple?
Yeah, Kelly Buchberger is one that come to mind. Like maybe some of the younger kids that were in on the early 90s teams, like Adam Graves. Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of names you can choose from, but like those are a couple that stick out for me.
Yeah. I don't know what they want, like for a guy's tenure, like how many years they want him to be an Oiler, but
I think it's a factor, but I don't think it's a deciding factor. I mean, it should be. It's a combination of maybe how long they were in Oiler and also what they were accomplished. Like, so you look at a guy like Cujo, for example. He could be in the running. He wasn't here very long, but he definitely was instrumental in what they were doing.
Yeah, maybe Todd.
I'm with you, Brahemsky. What about a guy like Esa Tikkanen?
Yeah, that's a good call from the dynasty years. I mean, there were so many back then too. It's probably easy to miss some guys.
Would Sean Horkoff be in the running? Having been a captain and helped us go towards an 06 run there.
Yeah, Horkoff or Ethan Morrow
Yeah, Morrow, Todd Marchand too, game winner in '97.
I don't care what anybody says. We got to retire Mike Smith's shoulder.
And his shoulder from the rafters, his right hook.
They should just have like an imprint of his shoulder going into the boards. Like, oh man, that one game, I think he like separated it 3 times and he kept popping it back in because he knew he couldn't do any more damage. So, yeah, that guy was a gutsy player. You guys have any thoughts about the Boston Bruins' newest captain, Brad Marchand, taking the reins there? I think that was only a matter of time after Bergeron hung him up. I think that's good for them and maybe good for him. But a few years ago, that move would have been hilarious.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when Marchand first came into the league, I didn't think that this would be the type of player he'd be. He's far exceeded any expectation I had for him. So credit to him. You're a very effective player and strong leader. Very outspoken in social media. I don't know what the guy's like in the room, but you can tell he's definitely passionate, and he does the things that are required to win. He gets under the opponent's skin and he fills the net with pucks. So good player, gets a decent choice.
I can't remember the other Bruin that he has like an outdoor company and they make clothing, apparel, and stuff because he's big into bow hunting. The guy off the ice is actually fascinating. I love the player. I'd love him on the Oilers. I don't love all the antics, but
he's actually decreased his antics too here. I mean, occasionally the old Brad Marchand will pop his head out.
Yeah.
But I think he's matured a lot in his years, knowing he is one of the leaders on this team. I used to watch this little thing they had on the net. I think they might still have it though. It's called Behind the B, kind of a behind the look on the Boston Bruins team. And there's a pretty good episode of Bergeron, and this is a few years ago now, Bergeron and Marchand's relationship. And, they show clips of these guys in dressing and what have you. I think Bergeron was a huge influence on Marchand, as he was probably for most of the Bruins for that matter. But Marchand actually came across in that episode as a really, team-oriented guy. Like he was talking to everybody in the room, high-fiving everybody in the room, even after a workout. They'd be running the halls or playing their little sewer ball and just, very encouraging. And I was actually, it gave me a new insight to kind of what Brad Marchand might be like as a team guy. So the C, I think, well, he's earned it, but that kind of stuff there where you kind of see what he's like off the ice, definitely, obviously would play a role.
I got to take a jab here, but you think the Leafs are already in desperation mode, having William Nylander given a go at C?
Adding Tyler Bertuzzi and Max Domi, it allows them to take a risk like that. Because before they had their top 4, so 2 guys on 2 different lines, and they had a guy who didn't belong on one of those 2 lines on each, the top line and the second line, right? But now they don't necessarily have that issue because you got Bertuzzi on one line, Domi on another. So it looks like they got Bertuzzi up with Matthews and Marner to start, which solid top line. And then you can go Domi with Tavares and one player that maybe doesn't belong in the top 6. I can't remember what their combinations are right now, but you can try it, mess around with it in preseason, and it goes. It's no different than us throwing Nuge at 3C, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you're bang on there, Lotsie. That's the comparison I was going to make a little bit there with Nuge. I doubt we see Nylander down on the third line all year. I mean, just like every team, they're going to be line juggling and whatever fits. And Nylander's going to see a lot of top 6 minutes and power play time and what have you. So I don't think he's any less effective, really, as a third line center as Nuge wasn't. So.
And my issue with doing that is the quality of player that you're going to be putting on Nylander's wings. You're diminishing the effectiveness of the player by sticking him with less talented players. And I mean, Nylander's been a winger for most of his pro career, and he might have played a little center in his prior days, but he hasn't played center at the NHL level in a long time, if at all. Right, so you're putting a guy out of position and sticking him with a weaker player. So how is that getting the most out of your guy?
It can be twofold. I agree with you there. I mean, sometimes you're only as good as your line mates, but some guys also excel in being the guy that has to carry a line. So that might be kind of maybe an experiment to see, if Nylander has that capability.
That's a fair point, and I don't see Nylander as that guy, but maybe there's something I'm missing.
Do you guys have thoughts on the rookies going 1 and 2 in the young stars? Any concerns there, or just whatever?
No, I mean, it's not like whatever. I mean, it's good to see where our prospects are at in their development curve. Get to see a live viewing of them. I I was only able to see the Calgary game. I didn't watch the Winnipeg and Vancouver games in depth. Like I thought that our top guys left a little bit to be desired in that Calgary game. They got nothing going at 5-on-5. I felt the guys like Bourgault and Petrov. Like I felt they got pushed off the puck a little too easily in those games, and just the sights were a little bit off on their passing, and the hands weren't quite there. So I don't know if it was a bad night or what, but overall, I mean, Borgo did make a couple of nice little plays throughout the weekend. Petrov had the nice goal against Calgary. So like and Bo Wakey was looking real good on the back end. That's a promising second rounder that came in this year. So yeah, I mean, it's about what I expected, to be honest. But maybe a little bit disappointed in how the top guys performed.
It
Well,
was
I
kind of
think
cool.
Akey was a standout for me. Sorry, Akey was a standout for me. He surprised me more. He did more than I anticipated, so he definitely stood out. Alexander, yeah, he had his moments. I agree with you too that he kind of like Borgo. There was kind of he got to push off the puck a couple of times more often than I'd like to see. But big picture here is none of these guys we had here, the young prospects, are really expected to be regulars in the lineup this year. So this was basically just they get a chance to wear the Oilers jersey. They get a chance to go out there and play some hockey together. A lot of these guys hadn't even played together before, so they're kind of gelling as well, and it's a feeling out process. To me, it was more of just an interesting. It was interesting to see what we have in the pipeline in regards to actually seeing these guys skate, since we don't really watch a lot of Bakersfield or minor hockey games really, and just fun. Like, it was fun to see these guys in order sweats and duking it out there.
So I'll answer name here. There's a YouTube account and guys that I kind of talk to every other day or whatever on Twitter. Oilers After Dark. They streamed the rookie, the young stars, the whole series, and they almost did like Peyton and Eli, where they would have themselves kind of as on screen, but off on the side, kind of commenting on the game the whole time, and it was kind of a neat experience. Stream was a little laggy, but I guess they were streaming a stream, so didn't really work 1,000,000%, but it was kind of interesting to watch that, and I would love to do that for regular season games. So Sportsnet, when you're watching tonight, give me a call. But that last game when they played the Canucks, the first 5 minutes they dominated the hockey game, and I thought they were going to run them out of the rink, but they couldn't score. And then Vancouver scored on their first shot, and it was like Talbot or Koskinen all over again, and that game got kind of late early, and Bo, our young Bo there, he made, I think, 3 trips to the penalty box. He was a little undisciplined in that one, but I think it was because they were trailing most of the game and he was getting frustrated.
It was also the third game in 4 days for an 18-year-old.
Yeah. But there's some size there. I mean, he fits in with those guys. I mean, he's bigger than pretty much everybody on the ice for that kind of level, and looks like he'll fit in kind of at the next level if he fills out a little bit more. So I learned the other day that Carter Hart, Tristan Jarry, and Stu Skinner all worked with Dustin Schwartz this summer, while Campbell worked with Manny Legacy and kind of kept in contact for the mental side of his game with Dustin Schwartz. That was info for Chad, but I'm also share it with the world. And today the Oilers dropped some other news. Michael Parkati was named the Oilers Senior Director of Data and Analytics, much to the, erection of half of Oilers analytic Twitter. They got a lot out of that. I got a little graphic with that one. So that is the gentleman.
Well, first off,
Wow.
shout out to Lotsie here. For anybody's listening, you got to go on heavyhockey.com and check out some of these articles. But Lotsie called some of this stuff ahead of time. You were one of the front runners here to bring up the scouting department and the fact that changes might be coming there. And sure enough, I think it was like 24 hours later or 48 hours later that happened. And now you're also brought up the whole analytics department and how anticipating a change there or an improvement or even an actual analytics department for the Oilers, and here it is happening. I just read your article right before we came on in regards to this hiring. How do you feel about this? Where are you sitting on this whole analytics thing for the Oilers?
Yeah, I mean, got a little bit lucky on the timing of all of this. I wasn't sure that Jackson was gonna be making as many moves and being as aggressive as he's been, but kudos to Jackson on having the guts and making and just being willing to make these decisions so quickly. Well, I think that he's done a great job with this hire. Parkatti looks like a fantastic candidate. I was doing a little bit of research on him and some of his work, and like he's got his own website called boysonthebus.com, and he hasn't written anything on there since 2020, but he's got a lot of really interesting content. And what I was looking at mostly was he did a 5-part series about using data to predict how guys coming out of the draft might perform in the NHL. And like, it's all above my head for it all. But
did I hear correctly? I thought I heard this maybe on Oilers Now, but did he spend 2013 to 15 as a consultant with the team?
That is exactly right. So they held the team held a contest. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head right now, but basically it was a writing contest, and they got fans' ideas on things that they could do to improve the team, essentially. And Parkatti submitted a 5-page submission, and his idea, he created this coaching metric that basically described how coaches it measured how much line matching and adjustments coaches made. And he noticed that there was a correlation between his metric and performance in the standings. And it's like that entry won him the contest, and he was working for the Oilers as an analytics consultant a couple months later. And he stayed in that role for, like you said, 2 years, 2013 to 2015.
So we're getting this question from some stranger on YouTube. What's the point of having an analytics department? ? Scouting ? You guys can answer, but I'll give my take on it. I think analytics are, stats, and they're getting more and more sophisticated all the time. More in depth, different ways of looking at a bunch of different things. So it's data, and you can use that data, in terms of how you ice your team. When you're going to acquire a player, probably deeper down the lineup, your third and fourth line, 5, 6, 7 defensemen kind of guys. You can use the numbers to do a lot of things, I guess. You can form your style of play based on that. How players are going to improve your club, how it's going to affect your penalty kill, your power play, all that kind of stuff. So it's just information. Some people don't like it. Some people, myself included, once upon a time, believed that analytics was just something that would help in baseball, a stagnant game, that hockey's too complex and too many variables for it to truly work. But I think that's a little bit naive and maybe even a bit arrogant. I think, as time goes on, we're getting more sophisticated calculations to tell us a lot of different things. And I don't think it's everything, but I think it's something you can look at and you can use. And why not have all the tools in your toolbox readily available? You might not necessarily need to use them all, but if you have them, then you have them. And if you don't, you don't. So that's kind of my take on it. So, forming an analytics department and getting kind of the best guys in that field to have the best information probably gives you the best chance to compete in today's NHL and pro sports in general. That's kind of, I guess, where I come from on it. Lotsy, you can take it, and then Bobby, go from there.
Yeah, I think it can mean a lot of things. Scouting is a part of it for sure. I mean, if you caught Jeff Jackson's interview with Jason Gregor yesterday, he was talking about different uses for analytics. Like, he did mention amateur and professional scouting and player contracts, like negotiating player contracts. Who do you want to spend your money on? And
Right.
based on the data, is it smart to make this contract offer, or is it better to go out and get this player? You can use internal analytics to figure out what pairings and line combinations are working better and or best, which ones aren't working. You can look to other teams and see which players specific skill sets that you're looking for, like who's good at denying entry passes or denying the blue line, who's good at rushing the puck up the ice, who's good at breaking up defensive passes into the slot. Like, there's so many different things that you can do with analytics, and like you can create your own data. You can find data for pretty much anything, which is something I've learned in kind of researching Parcatti's accomplishments today. Like, he's a very he's got a lot of ingenuity. Like, he's a creative guy, but all of his work is based on a really sound and solid structure of scientific data. So this opened up a world of possibilities for the team.
I think a key word there was that you have in your article there too, Lotsy, was how Jackson mentioned that it's another tool in the toolbox. I think, and really, can you have too many tools in your toolbox? If you do, you just get a bigger toolbox. Like, information is great. Analytics. I'm a fan of analytics. I'm a bit of a hockey nerd. But I also recognize it's not the do-all, be-all of everything. It can open up doors, open up your eyes. It can show you different things that are happening that like you weren't even that aware of, but the numbers all of a sudden pop up and say, well, this can't be ignored. And also, a lot of it will just confirm what you already know. I think analytics has been a part of this game probably for a long time, but not necessarily on computers or that kind of data. I was a coach when I coached junior. Even the little thing of I had a pen and paper in my hand, keeping track of face-offs. The guy who's was our best face-off guy wasn't necessarily the best face-off guy every night. He might have been the dominant one for most of the season, but all of a sudden you got one guy who's red hot, and you're keeping track. Like, man, he's 6-1 today. Like, I'm going to throw him out there for this key face-off. I have the numbers to back up saying this guy is our best guy for tonight. And I think that's another form of analytics, just kind of opening your eyes. That's not a guy who I would have normally chosen because, he's not a number one center who's usually good on face-off, but might be struggling that night or what have you, or confirm something that you already know is, this guy is great on a PK face-off or that such a thing. So it's more tools. And I think, if anything, too, opening up this analytics department, Jeff Jackson is kind of ushering the Oilers into the modern hockey world. We kept hearing we had these analytics. We always heard Dave Tippett say that I got my own analytics, but we had no idea what that was, right? Kind of thing. But now we have an actual department that's going to be utilized and can advise and let's see what it does. I mean, why not try it out?
Yeah, it can't hurt. I'm not exactly sure where this is going, but I'm gonna put a different comment up here because I'm gonna have to ask the guy to explain a little bit, but. Kevin McKenna is watching on Eastern time, so it's 11:30 out there. He's trying to be the next Hebert. Says that coach got hired a couple of weeks ago. Heard he's going to be an eye in the sky type that calls down to the bench with analytic trends in the moment. I'm not sure if that's in reference to Parchetti or somebody else or what that is. Do you have any idea, Lotsy? Or
I'm just trying to find the article. Finelli, I think, was the guy that was hired to replace Jeremy Couple.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where we're going with that. Yeah, that makes sense. And some stranger puts.
It's Noah Siegel that's the new video coach. So Siegel is taking the position that Couple had.
Okay. and be good for betting. Yeah, I think analytics will help out when it comes to sports betting. Although we might never see the numbers that they are coming out with, so that might just
Yeah,
be an
like
internal thing.
the numbers that are publicly available for like on a lot of sites like Puck IQ, Natural Stack. There's lots of other ones there. NHL teams might be using some. They likely have a lot of their own stats that are beyond anything that we could possibly imagine.
So the next thing I guess we should touch on, I'll put up the little graphic of it. And it's not that big a deal, but so lines today were Kane, McDavid, Brown, RNH, Draisaitl, Hyman, Fogle, Pedersen, Ryan, Holloway, Brandon Sutter, Janmark, Ernie, Malone, and Lavoie. Nurse was with Bouchard, Kulak, and CC, Broberg, Desharnais, Niemelainen, and Ben Gleason, Skinner, and Campbell in the nets. And I was a little surprised that Gagne actually was on the ice today too. Jack says he wasn't, but he was later on after that got released. Sam did take a little bit of a skate today.
Yeah, Geggs wasn't in the first group, but like what I saw from that, like my first takeaway was all the guys that you just listed there are the guys that are going to be in contention for any of the roster spots. Like we all know there's only one roster spot that's really available, and the guys listed on that page or in that tweet are the ones that are going to be competing for that open roster spot. Anybody in Group 2 is likely not getting a roster spot.
Yeah. And word was, I think, from Rashog that Brandon Sutter seemed to be moving pretty well on the ice. So that's good for a guy coming back from injury. So,
yeah. Well, what Holland was saying, and listen to his little, press availability is that, if he gets anything close to what he was like, before his illness and having 2 years off of hockey, he is exactly what the Oilers need for right-handed, power forward centerman. So, man, if he can find that form, well, we're in good shape. But okay, Lottie, how much do you think we've improved here in this off season as opposed to say like last season? Like, are you pumped up about our bottom six or our bottom D pairing, or like how many question marks do you have floating in your head here right now? You look at that potential lineup.
I mean, I think the roster is pretty solid, to be honest with you. Question marks. The DA still think it's a little bit awkward because where does Philip Broberg fit in? How do you get that guy more ice time? He needs it, but so that's just kind of a little bit awkward. Cody Ceci, I hope and assume will be a little bit better than he was last year. Given if he was injured all year, as the rumors say he was, then I would expect a summer to train and heal. Would at least put him in a step in the right direction. Maybe not as good as he was his first year here, but not as bad as last year. There's a happy medium. The bottom six, I'm expecting some internal growth from guys like Ryan McLeod and Dylan Holloway for sure. But those guys get such little ice time in comparison to the top six. Yes, they're crucial. We need them to saw it off or come close to it in the goal share battle. But the top set and Connor Brown rounds out that top six finally. That's an upgrade over Kyler Yamamoto or Jesse Puljujarvi or Zach Cassian from years prior. It's finally a complete and true top six. So yeah, I definitely think we improved just enough.
I think our if Connor Brown can find the form he had before, then yes. He was pretty durable there for I think 4 seasons in a row he didn't miss a game, and then 2 seasons ago he had a bit of a minor injury with Ottawa, and then of course last year was kind of a write-off altogether.
Yeah,
so
last year was his first real injury, a serious one.
Yeah. So if he can regain his form, then we're good. We're set. But right now, as it looks just on, I don't know. Connor Brown brings experience, definitely. He's never put up, violently high numbers to begin with. Even top line numbers. I think his highest points per game was 0.61. He's never even cracked the 60-point mark. I think you need your first line guys to be the pretty much 60-point guys. Yamamoto did reach that kind of points per game ratio where he would have gotten 60 points at least, or 80 points, I guess, in that 1 year we had 0.96 points per game.
Yeah, I think that
So
was
he
an
had the
outlier.
potential. Yeah. And so he had that kind of upside, but he definitely decreased as time went on. Yalmo's only 2 years away from a 20-goal season. Connor Brown is, I don't. I'm hesitantly optimistic about Connor Brown, but I got too many question marks floating around. Like it's too many what ifs for me
The guy
to be fully confident, right?
for me, the guy put up 23 goals without Connor McDavid. So with him, what's that going to mean? I'm thinking he's going to be zeroing in around the 30 goal mark myself, but got to stay healthy. That's going to be the question mark for me.
Well, everybody does.
There's been a lot of shortened seasons in Connor Brown's career, and not just because of injuries, but like COVID that had a lot to do with it. So that makes his numbers look a little worse. But I remember when he signed, I did a piece, and I think it came up with, I don't remember what the number is off the top of my head, but he averaged something like 49 to 51 points over an 82 game season, like that kind of pace every year, and that's in Ottawa without Connor McDavid, like you said, Mike. Right, so even if he has a start and takes a little bit to get up to pace, like that 45 to 55 point range is definitely in range for Connor Brown.
Some stranger more curious about that Ernie guy. Yeah, I've got no read on him, but Saturday I'm going to attend the practice 10 o'clock in the morning at Rogers and the scrimmage after, and Sunday's first preseason game. So maybe sometime there I'll get a look at this Ernie guy and I can let you know what I think. After that,
I want to know a little bit about Ernie. Ernie had 160 hits in 61 games last year. Clean Costin had 157 hits in 57 games last year, and that led the Oilers. Even more than Darnell Nurse, who played 25 minutes a night in all 82 games last year. So Adam Ernie, he's going to earn a job by being physical and chipping in with a little bit of offense. But like, you want to see your guys bringing some physicality in the bottom six, Ernie's your guy.
Sounds like a perfect 13th forward to me.
Well, that's what I think. Ken Holland recognized the importance that Costin brought to the team and what we're missing when he's gone. Now, yeah, like he was inconsistent at times for sure, but he was a body banger. And I think that's like what Lottie alluded to. That's what Ernie's in here for. He's not going to get you a bunch of points. I think he's scored double-digit goals, I don't know, 2 or 3 times in his career, topping off at 11, if I remember correctly. But he's there to bang. He's there to soften the guys up. He'd be a great fourth liner.
Yeah. So when Holland talked about Ernie, he started his thoughts by talking about how much size the Oilers lost over the summer, right? So you can tell that you can tell where Holland's headspace is at by bringing Ernie in.
So cool to see the Oilers After Dark guys checking us out after I gave them a plug, but they showed up late, so they didn't hear it. So I'll plug them again. Watched their stream to watch the Young Stars. And thank you guys for doing that. That was cool. You guys with the Peyton Manning kind of picture-in-picture thing going on there. I enjoyed that. One day when Sportsnet, decides to call me, I'll do that for regular season games too. I'd love that. So comments are pretty active here. Some strangers saying, do you think Brown's more consistent than Yamo? I think health is going to be the thing there that'll lead to him being consistent. So if he can stay healthy, I would say over 82 games in the lineup, I think you can expect a consistent player there. I don't think he'll have disappearing acts. And if he can stay, healthy and playing with Connor, I think the sky's the limit of what he can do.
He's a shooter, right? Like most of his stats, he's got more goals than assists. And one of my biggest frustrations with Yamo was to be a top 6 player or even play with Connor McDavid and have like 3 games in a row where you don't have a shot on net. It's inexcusable. Like you're up there to produce. And we know at least if Connor Brown averages 3 shots a game, I'm already happy. He's at least taking those chances.
It's good to see friend Tessa Bennett checking in here too. She's saying Ernie's unlikely to move the dial much, inconsistent. Take it from a Detroit fan. Yeah, but you're an Oiler fan too, Tess. So you got to start confessing that you're a fan of both teams.
So just a note on Connor Brown's finishing here. Connor Brown's got a career finishing percentage of 11.6%, which is a little bit above league average. League average is usually like high 9s, low 10s, somewhere in that range. And he has a season of 17.1 and he has another one of 14.4%. And like his worst seasons are in the 9s. He has one at 8.3. So like, Connor Brown has a pretty reasonably high rate of finishing, which is something that we've needed. A right-hand shot that has a good finishing percentage in the top 6. That's Connor Brown.
Yeah, Kevin's saying people forget Brown was ahead of Hyman on the depth chart a few years ago on a pretty damn good team. If we're talking about Toronto, I don't want to talk about them, but and Tessa's laughing at me, telling her she's a fan of the Oilers too. So, oh man. So we're both.
Quick shout here. So are all three of us predicting an Oilers Stanley Cup this year?
I'm going to say if we stay healthy, yes, sir.
I'm bullish on their chances, but I don't want to jinx it.
No, I think
so. Then, so without risking the jinxing part, who potentially are the Oilers meeting in the final?
There's
who do you see coming out of the East?
That's a real good question because a lot of the top teams that have been strong there are regressing. Boston's not what they used to be. Tampa's finally feeling the cap crunch. They're not what they used to be. Toronto is Toronto. Yeah, I find the East is pretty open. I'd look at something out of the Metropolitan, like Carolina might finally break through. New Jersey could surprise some people. Like they took down a stacked Rangers team in the first round last year. The Rangers, again, another really strong team as well. It's like I think the East is pretty open, but I'm leaning towards someone out of the Metro.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a good question. Can Florida duplicate what they did last year? I think that's a question that needs to be on Sergei Bobrovsky pretty much fully. If they get quality goaltending out of that guy, he proved that he can take them to the Stanley Cup, just about win it.
I think we see a drop off in Florida. Do we honestly expect Matthew Tkachuk to keep doing what he was doing after 1 year?
Yeah,
I give him a lot of credit.
I do. I think Tkachuk can keep doing what he's been doing. Yeah, I don't think he falls off.
He's a hell of a player, but is he going to be in the Hart conversation again, year after year after year?
I don't think so, but I really did. I didn't expect him to do what he did in Calgary, playing with Gaudreau, and I really didn't expect him to in Florida get over 100 points. But sure enough, he got over 100 points again. So I mean, don't like the player. Good on him though. Got to respect him.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. But how much does the loss like Gudas affect Florida too on the back end?
Oh, they're not going to have Ekblad or Montour for at least a month each.
Yeah.
I think Montour will be back a little bit sooner, but Ekblad's out for a little while, so they might have a rough start.
Yeah, and they just made the playoffs, last year.
Barely.
So that could be a factor. I guess you can't win the cup if you can't get into the playoffs. Some stranger says Avs still a threat. Yeah, absolutely. They're a team to be reckoned with, and you can't sleep on them. I think Edmonton's biggest challenges, though, are going to come within the Pacific again. LA and Vegas are still going to be the teams that are probably going to give us the most problems. But yeah,
well, I hate to say this, but I think Calgary's going to make a step forward this year too. I don't see Huberdeau struggling as hard as he did before, neither. Markstrom, I know he definitely had an off year as well. Not that I'm going to be rooting for them or nothing like that, obviously, but I do see them being a stronger team than they were last year.
Yeah, you got Ryan Husker behind the bench. He sounds like very much a player's coach, quite the opposite of Daryl Sutter. So I think the culture in the room is going to be much better, and they're going to be a little bit. I mean, that's probably an understatement.
Yeah.
But no, I definitely agree. I think Calgary could take a bit of a step forward here. Seattle still. Seattle did what they did last year and didn't make many changes, so they're a team that'll be in the mix as well.
I didn't want to make this the focus of tonight's show, but we might as well address the herd of elephants in the room. What the fuck were the Columbus Blue Jackets doing? Oh, man, that Babcock scenario, that is just crazy. Like, I'm all for giving people another chance, but man, what are you doing there with that guy? That's yeah. And if Biz could do it all over again, I don't think he would name names in what kind of got published, but I knew that they wouldn't just say that if there wasn't a little bit of smoke there, and that whole thing, man, that is just insane. Any
Yeah,
thoughts, you guys?
I mean, nail meets head, insane. Like there's been so many stories come out from former players of Mike Babcock's. Like you look at Johan Franzen among others.
Mike Modano. Like, how do you bench Mike
Modano.
Modano?
That was ridiculous. That was ridiculous. But I mean, there's enough anecdotal evidence to say like why are we giving him another chance? And
if Tess is still watching, I'd love to hear her take on Babcock benching Mike Modano in Detroit. Maybe that's just payback for him always beating Detroit when he was with Dallas and Minnesota before that. I don't know.
Who knows? But
how does this affect Jarmo Kekalainen there going forward? Like how is he viewed now by the league and by his peers?
I mean, this was a big season for Columbus as well. Like they made the big coaching change and they made a bunch of trades after a terrible season. Like ownership is expecting more out of them. They want to step forward, and then this debacle happens, right?
It's a good point by Tess there. Like perplexing that they hired him, and the follow up from some stranger here is they were looking for a redemption story. I mean, is that your way? You got a pretty shitty fucking hockey team if you got to hire a guy as a redemption story as a coach to have a warm fuzzy story about that's going about hockey the total wrong way in my opinion. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing though. You've got a Stanley Cup winning coach who's got a winning pedigree.
Yeah.
To a team that desperately needs winning pedigrees around them, and you're hoping for that Babcock has learned his lesson redemption thing. So you got that two-part story there that had the potential to be something huge and give you all the warm fuzzy feelings. But in the long run, Babcock's his own worst enemy, and unfortunately, he drags the Columbuses down with him, and makes a leadership group of Columbus got egg on their face a little bit there.
And you can tell what kind of coach that the Blue Jackets seem to favor. Like, I mean, I don't want to compare Tortorella to Babcock in terms of from a human perspective, but they're both abrasive coaches.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? No, they kind of have a history of going for that coach that is not exactly what you would call a player's coach. Tortorella might be a little bit of I've heard, once you're off the ice, though, he is a player's coach. Like, he cares about people. But he can be a bit of a dictator in the room.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to compare Tortorella and Babcock as people, but like
you can't.
Coaches,
no.
Like they're both abrasive. Like Tort's from again, this is all speculation and hearsay, but he seems to be more direct. Like he'll be brutally honest with players, and like he's not afraid to bench stars. Like he's not afraid to tell you how it is and hold guys accountable. Yeah. And, I mean, Babcock, same thing. He'll tell you, he'll let you know how he feels about you. Usually not in a good way, though.
Yeah. With Tortorella, there's still a quality person behind the coach.
Yeah.
Tess says, I have lots to say about Babcock's treatment of Modano. If we weren't 49 minutes into this, I would send you an invite code, Tess, and you could just come on here and tell us all about it.
Next time. You have to get her on.
Next time. Yeah, for sure. Some stranger says, hey, what if it worked out? Yeah, nothing ventured, nothing gained, but I don't know.
It was a gamble, but that is that had the potential of a what if was there. But in this day and age, that's a pretty big gamble to take.
Like, I think it's an impatient grasping at straws. It's Kekalainen feeling pressure from ownership, and let's get the most experienced guy that's won some cups and is a big brand name, but that's rarely the right move. Like, I find it better to bet on people who haven't reached their peak yet rather than people who have reached their peak, right? Like, Ken Holland is proving me wrong in that. But with Babcock, his best days are far behind him. And I think Columbus would have been better to go with a younger coach, like a younger players coach. And like, I'm happy for the guy that they hired. I'm forgetting his name right now, but I guess he was passed up at the last minute for Babcock, and he had been close in a couple other interviews before for an NHL coaching job and came up just short. But it's not the way he wants to get an opportunity, but he's got an NHL opportunity now, so good on him.
Yeah. I just, after, Sutter crashed and burned in Calgary, you think you'd take a page out of that and steer your ship in a different direction. I just think like there's some coaches that worked, 10, 15 years ago, but in this day and age, athletes are different. You have to be very dialed in on the human side of people more so than the X's and O's. And yeah, I just think they made a mistake, and hopefully they learn from it and don't double down and make another one like that. I've heard good. I've heard good things that they've got somebody that's good now. It just maybe he's not as strong on the X's and O's front, but I mean,
Pascal Vincent. I wanted to get the guy's name. Pascal Vincent, new coach of the Jackets. So good on him.
Yeah. You have to start though with how you are approaching your players and how you get to know them and all that, and going about that the right way before they're going to buy into any X and O's you teach them anyway. So you got to start there.
I think you brought up a pretty good point there, Lotsy, the fact that there's something behind the name Babcock, so some name recognition. And at this point, there's an element of desperation because Columbus hasn't had a winning season in freaking forever.
Yeah.
And you want to be relevant, so let's get a named coach. Hopefully that gets us some respect. And
there's pressure from ownership there too, right? When you're feeling pressure from ownership, the desperation level rises. So you make a move like Babcock, and maybe it works out and you look like a genius, but more often than not in that kind of scenario, it doesn't work out.
So interesting side story then. How do you think this affects potentially a guy like Joel Quenneville, who's also looking for a redemption thing?
That's a valid point. Probably negatively. I think after the PR nightmare that came out of this, I don't think teams are going to be very excited about taking a chance on Quenneville.
And I believe that both him and Stan Bowman there had already meetings with the NHL in regards to getting the gears in motion of getting reinstated. So this will definitely put a cog in that, or a wrench in that wheel there.
Yeah, even if Bettman says, yeah, sure, go ahead. Even if Bettman says, yeah, sure, go ahead. Like, are they going to really want to? Is a team going to want to take that chance?
Right.
Probably not.
Yeah, no, it's put a wrench into a lot of that kind of stuff. And maybe it's a good thing. NHL needs to clean up some of that stuff. So, hockey becomes hockey again and not all the other stuff that goes along with it. Any thoughts? A couple guys, McLeod was off the ice, Ekholm. Sam was skating with the other group because his hips aren't totally 100% yet. So he's probably going to start the year down on the farm, I'm thinking. Any concerns with McLeod? We already touched on Ekholm, but any concerns there?
Yeah, not for me. It sounds like a soft tissue injury. It's one of those things that could potentially be re-aggravated and made worse if you try to force it. But just like with Ekholm, there's no sense in trying to force him to play through it right now. Like, let all the camp invites duke it out in the first week of camp and let the vets get their reps in the second week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for guys like that have already made the team, it doesn't make sense for them to try and push through anything at all and start the year off on a bad foot. I can see more guys like some of these camp invites, quote unquote, risking it because they're really trying to work hard and be noticeable and make the team. But like McLeod and Ekholm already on it. Well, Ekholm obviously is a given, but McLeod's earned his way on there and he's got a spot. There's no sense in pushing it.
Well, gentlemen, I think we've touched on just about everything I had on my agenda. Lotsy just hammered out an article just before we came on, I think, and I believe you put one out yesterday. You're cranking them out so often, it's hard to keep up to you.
Yesterday, I was just trying to compile all the updates from all the media availabilities at camp. So it's just a little rundown and a little bit of my thoughts on what I saw happen on Wednesday, and then the article I just put out tonight on Parkatti's hiring. I think it's worth a read. I think there's lots of interesting content. I read a few other pieces that came out during the day, and I wanted to go a little bit further in depth on Parkatti's background and what he might bring to the team than what I saw from some other sources out there. So if you want a little bit more info, take a look over at heavyhockey.com, where there's hire Parkatti to be Senior Director of Data and Analytics.
And if you're not a big fan of analytics, you can at least be a fan of the guy came from the oil field into the Oilers. So he's got like a little bit of oil field experience. So that's, will endear some people that are just, give me hockey.
He's an Alberta guy, and he's also a former contributor to Copper and Blue. So he's a former blogger, just like me. So that's the cool little piece about him.
We're going to have to change your name from Lotzi to Robo Writer because you're just cranking out the articles and showing the rest of us that write for Heavy Hockey up.
Training camp always does it to me.
I got to ask you, so you can tell everybody, what are we studying in school?
Yeah, so right now I'm doing a professional certificate in instructional design. So if you've ever done any sort of online training for your job, I'm learning how to create that content right now.
Very good. And me and Bobby are just two guys that get together every once in a while and shoot the shit about this game of hockey. And he shares his goalie knowledge and I share my lazy left wing knowledge. But YouTube chat was pretty active tonight. I want to thank everybody for being involved there, and Tess on Facebook. Facebook does work on the chats for whatever reason. Twitter does fucking not. So if you're watching on Twitter, I would probably say do it on YouTube or Facebook, and it'll be more enjoyable because you can chat away and we can highlight whatever you're saying and pull it up on screen. For whatever reason, Twitter stopped really working that way. Hopefully one day it will again, but it's not there now. So I would say YouTube and Facebook are probably the best ways to watch. At some point when we get a little bit more of an audience, I can stream to Kick and new website Kick and Twitch and those places too. And hopefully in the future, Instagram and TikTok maybe. But everybody watch on YouTube, Facebook, thanks for doing that. On Saturday, I will be in attendance for the practice and scrimmage and Sunday's first preseason game. So I think me and Bob and Chad are going to try to get together on the weekend and do another in-person pod in the city there. And then I'm going to go watch that stuff and all that.
Yeah, I'm going to be there on Saturday too. So if anyone wants to come out, feel free to say hi.
Yeah, I imagine you just sit wherever. So I'll have to track you. I'll have to track you.
I've been there a couple times for that thing, and you can just sit wherever, so it's not a big deal. Yeah, I do want to give a quick shout out here again for. Sorry, Lotzi, go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good.
I do want to give a quick shout out to you, Lotzi, actually, for the articles that you're putting out. You said you kind of dive in and do more than just a story, and you do every single one of your articles. It's quality after quality, so I appreciate the work you put into that. I encourage everybody to check out heavyhockey.com and check out all the articles, but it's worth a look at some of Lotzi's stuff in the archives too, because they're still relevant right now. He did a great series on why Connor McDavid will probably stay in Edmonton. Did a great series on the Jeff Jackson hire and so on. So keep up the good work, and I appreciate everything you do for the Heavy Hockey Network.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Bob. I appreciate that.
I should mention too, Tuesday nights, 9:00, Dashin and Michael Oilers Live run their show on Edmonton Sports Talk. So that's huge for them. And on Wednesday nights, the Fantasy Hockey Hacks, I believe, go on at 9:00 too on Edmonton Sports Talk. I'm going to have to get those guys on and try to see if they can convince me to get back into fantasy hockey because, the first fantasy hockey I was ever involved with, I got the first overall pick. I took McDavid and I still would finish in the bottom of the league. So I shut that down quit, so I need them to talk me back into why I should be playing again. I'm not sure they can do it, but I'll give them an opportunity to. Thanks for listening, Tess. We will definitely visit having you on the show at some point. And yeah, so on the weekend, we're going to do one more in October, first week of October. We're going to switch from Thursdays to Monday nights, just so I can dub this Monday Night Raw with these characters. But thanks for watching, everybody. Keep your sticks on the ice. Keep reaching for the stars, and go Oilers, go. Good night, Lotsie. Good night, Bobby. We're out.